Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Community Connections, community talk for community people. Happy Father's Day to everyone, all of the men out there. If you are listening to Kiss 107, happy Father's Day. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you. We appreciate what you do on a daily basis. Those who are good fathers and those who are wanting to be great fathers, keep working at it. Keep working at it with your kids and with your family, with the community. So we certainly appreciate you. Community Connections is community talk for community people, and this is the fastest and most friendly weekly 1 hour talk show in the Great Lakes Bay Saginaw region. I am glad that you tuned in this afternoon on June the 18th, 2023, for another sharing of community talk and information. Today's Community Connection show is brought to you by the Saginaw branch of the NAACP and its Youth Council. We urge you to get connected, be informed, and stay involved. Okay, we have another board operator here. Matthew, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm glad to meet you and be with you, and you be with me this afternoon as we get this show on the road.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I want to tell you about my guest this afternoon. I have with me the Reverend Dr. Marvin T. Smith. He is a senior pastor at Mount Olive Institutional Missionary Baptist Church right here in Saginaw, one of our large African American churches. And he is here to share with me information on his new book. He is the author of the book, The Pandemic: How My Faith Was Challenged But Not Changed. It is a very thin book. It's only 89 pages, and it's an easy read. I'm not going to give out all the information, but certainly we're going to talk about it. Pastor, welcome to Community Connections.
I'm glad to be here, Joyce.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. This is your second or third book, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you started writing this book when?
At the height of the pandemic.
And we were talking about the COVID
Yes.
pandemic right here in Saginaw.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you have to do a lot of research for this kind of book, Pastor?
Well, yes. I lean heavily on. We have a group of individuals at the church that we call the REST, Reentry Strategy Team, that not only helped us make choices and decisions about when to return to the sanctuary, in-person worship, but they also kept us abreast, kept us up to date with stats and statistics relative to how COVID was affecting us.
Okay. So Pastor, I wanted to also ask a few questions, get some things out of the way. How is Sister Lady Omi Smith?
Omi is doing well.
Good.
She is around day 60 in terms of isolation, and she is doing well. She is fighting a good fight. She is being encouraged. She's keeping herself busy. One of the greatest challenges is being away from her babies and students.
Yes.
But she knows that the best thing for her is to remain away for now. But she is doing well. No abnormalities in terms of new side effects or anything. The side effects she's experiencing are common to transplant, stem cell transplant recipients. But by God's grace and the prayers of the saints, she's doing amazingly well. So keep her in your thoughts and your prayers.
Yes, we do. We love you, Sister Omi. We love you very much, and we're praying for you. You have children and grandchildren who are in the ministry as well. Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about your sons, your daughters, and who they are and what they do. We're going to get all this out of the way because we're going to get into this book.
Okay.
But I want people to know, people just hear a little bit here about, who your family is, and they may not know them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to talk about them.
Our oldest of three, Marcel, he serves as the executive pastor at the Mount Olive Church, but he's also pastor of the historic Second Baptist Church in Bay City.
Yes.
And he's been pastoring that church for a little bit over 2 or 3 years, doing a tremendous job there. In fact, we were with him today as they did a collaborative work with Gethsemane Church, Pastor Ben Smith, for the Juneteenth celebration. Just
Juneteenth
doing a
celebration, yes.
great job, and there's so much ahead of him. So proud of him. Then there, our oldest daughter, Marche. She is a pediatrician
Mm-hmm.
in the Atlanta area,
Girl.
doing an amazing job. In fact, recently she was recognized as Morehouse Faculty Member of the Year. So we're excited for her.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Love those kids. And then
Yes.
the baby, Mackenzie, she's in her second year of being an Atlanta Falcons cheerleader. So we're excited about that. We get a chance to go to Atlanta and watch her perform.
Yes.
That's her little side hustle, but her real job, she's a public relations specialist for a firm there. So we're
Very
excited
good.
about our kids. And then we have two amazing grandsons,
Yes.
Josiah, 11, and Jabari, who is 4.
Very
So
good.
we're been tremendously blessed with
That's-
children and grandchildren.
Did you coax Marcel into?
Not at all. I can remember, Jack, it was yesterday. He came to me saying, Daddy, I think God has called me to preach. I said,
right.
well, you'll be okay. Don't worry about it. He went away. He came back. He said, Daddy, I can't get this off of me. I believe I'm supposed to be in ministry. I said, well, hey, hang in there. And the third time he came with tears streaming out his face, he said, Daddy, I can't do it. At that point, I knew that there was something going on. And so we began to go through the process of discerning the call of God for his life. And he's been doing it ever since.
Wonderful story.
Yeah.
Nice little story. Okay, listen, I want to get into this book. You chose this title, The Pandemic, How My Faith Was Challenged But Not Changed. Tell us just about the title, and then we're going to go through the book a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question, Joyce. I wrestle with what the title would be, because the title has to do several things. It needs to be alluring, it needs to be engaging, yet memorable. And I thought about a person's faith that has not been challenged. I question whether or not it is faith at all, because we are weak. We have flaws. We are incomplete, and we are imperfect, and yet we are called to live a life of faith in a perfect God, a God who is everything that we are not. And so much happens to us that we question. It is natural, I think, for us to question God. And at the same time, we have to come to grips with there is so much we cannot know. And so as long as I tell people, as long as there is tension with your relationship in God, then that means you're growing, because God is stretching us. And so my faith was challenged. I questioned God in so many different ways for so many different reasons. I saw people, in bad shape, worse shape. And so it was challenged, but it did not cause me to leave God. So it wasn't changed. I still believe God was the God he has always been. And so I had different perspectives. I had new insight. And I was inspired to serve him with more passion and fervence. And so in doing all of that and in looking at that, that's when the title surfaced: Challenged but Not Changed.
Challenged but not changed.
Yeah.
You wrote this book in such a way that people who don't read the Word of God on a regular basis could understand this.
Yes.
You start off talking about what is faith. And if people don't understand what is faith, this is a good start for it. Well, I've read the book just about all the way to the end, and it's like a teaching book. It's a teaching book.
Yes.
You refer to Hebrews all the way through this book. What is faith to you?
Well,
explain that.
Yeah, and I listen to people quite often who say they don't believe in anything, but that's untrue. We all believe in something.
Something, that's right.
And we exercise a level of faith all the time. We get in our automobiles believing it's going this crank. We go down a highway and the light. We believe the light is going to change, and we're not going to have a collision at the intersection. We walked in this room today and sat in chairs. We did not inspect these chairs before we sat in them. So it's faith to some degree, biblical faith. That is, it's a solid conviction based upon what God has said concerning Himself. It is not pie in the sky. It's not a feeling. It's not an emotion, but it is a solid conviction. It is something you're willing to stand on, something to give your life for. It is what you literally you live for, and it is a solid conviction based upon what God has said concerning Himself.
But why write this book at this time?
Yes.
When the pandemic is going on, you have a lot of people who don't understand faith,
yes,
church, what
yes.
it means.
Yes.
Why write it at this time? Do you think that it was time to have some better understanding of the Word of God?
Yeah. For so many, good question. For so many, this was the worst time we've ever known.
It was terrible.
And when I was preparing to write the book, I came across some information that really spoke to how devastating COVID really was. And there are several types of major disasters as it relates to sickness, illness, disease, and an epidemic. It only affects a small segment of the population. An endemic affects an area or region, but a pandemic, it literally affects the entire world.
That's
and
right.
So hence that gave birth to the opening line of the book when I say COVID-19 brought the world to its knees.
It did.
There was no place that was not affected in some way. And so when you looked at all of that and what was going on, and for so long, Joyce, we really thought this thing was going to last 60 days, a month, and we were in this for nearly 3 years. And so it's like, wow, we need to say something about this. And so people were questioning. People who had never questioned God was questioning God. I mean, you could understand a business closing, but the church, you can't go to church. So it was like, whoa, wait a minute, what is happening? And so it caused so many of us to dig deep into the scriptures to see who has God changed on us? Has God forsaken us? And not at all. And you had to find a people who were going through similar situations and circumstances. That is, their worlds had literally been turned upside down. The people of Hebrews, those Jewish Christians, their faith, they were being persecuted for their faith. So they were challenged to leave their faith and return to paganism and ritualism and all of that. And so they had to dig deep again in their faith. And so for me, God has never rescinded the call to faithfulness. And so what a time the church would have and Christ followers would have reaching out to people in such a difficult time. So it was time to say something about that.
As a pastor of a church, a large congregation, okay, with someone being sick in your family, how do you keep the faith, and how do you keep going?
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah.
Sometimes people give up, and I know
Yes.
that you understand the Bible and you understand and love God, but it's still very hard to just keep going through things.
Yes.
So how did you do that, Pastor?
Well, I think it is impossible to follow God closely and not run out of strength. Following God closely, listening to Him often, you run out of strength. You run out of your own capacity, and He has to replenish. He has to refill. He has to renew. And we experienced that during COVID. I mean, we just ran out. We didn't have word. Our own words were falling on deaf ears. We did not have the answers to all these questions. And the challenge was saying, I don't know. But that's what genuine faith is. We know God knows. We don't know the answers, but we know God is the answer. And so it forced us to cling closer to Him. But to your original point, yes, I ran out several times, just depleted, just weighed down, frustrated, missing my people, not being able to visit them in the hospital, not being able to give them the traditional burial. And so it was a difficult time.
It's a lot of that's a lot of work. Ministry is tough to do. Ministry is tough to do. Now, just in case you've just tuned in to Community Connections, Community Talk for Community People, my guest this afternoon is the Reverend Dr. Marvin T. Smith. He's the pastor at Mount Olive Institutional Missionary Baptist Church and the author of a new book titled The Pandemic, How My Faith Was Challenged But Not Changed. It's an 89-page book. It's an easy read. We encourage you to get this book. Where can one pick this book up?
You can order it on Amazon, Zulon, and Zulon is spelled Xulon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart. But then hopefully I'll get a chance to tell you when we're going to have a book signing. Yes,
Pastor.
Great.
I hope that's going to come up soon.
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to tell you before we finish today.
Okay, very, very good. But let's start with I want to start with what is faith. If you could just give me a summary of this one chapter as to what is faith and what it does.
Yeah.
Okay. If you will explain that. What is faith and what does faith do for a person?
Yeah. Well, what faith again is a solid conviction.
Yes.
Based upon what God has said concerning God's self. That's what it is. And what it does is that it equips us to live a life that we otherwise could not live on our own.
Pastor, when you look at the pandemic and some people didn't believe what they were seeing, in the pandemic. And here in the book, it says seeing is believing. And God says believing is seeing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you get that turned around and the explanation and application of that?
Yes. Good question. So for me to see everything, then there is no need for me to have faith. But when I do not see everything, there's a reason for me to have faith. And once I have faith, then God reveals to me what is not easily seen in the natural. And so that's why it is based upon what God has said concerning himself and what he would do. A lot of people say, God, show me, then I'll believe. God says, believe, then I'll show you.
Okay.
And because again, we hear that without faith it's impossible to please God. We walk by faith and not by sight. And there are times when you become weary of walking by faith, and we get tired of walking by faith. We want answers, we want solutions, and we just tired. God, show me. I don't want to believe. But we, as long as we're on this side, it is a walk of faith.
And we want it right away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right, that is that fallen part of us.
Well, Pastor, when you talk the book of Hebrews, how was that chosen?
Again, I preached here and there from this particular book, and when I studied deeply and did a close, slow read of it, it was like, wow, these people. They are having to put their faith to work in the worst of times. And it's like, here we are in the worst of times. And so let's put our faith to work.
How many chapters? There's part one, learning from the past, Pastor. I want to get to this chapter 8 about hard choices.
Okay.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, obviously, when it comes to what a person is going to do with what they think is theirs, meaning their life, it's some hard choices. When you realize that your life is not your own, then you have to make some hard choices concerning your life. Are you going to live a life of purpose, a life of significance, calling, giftedness? Then you're going to have to make choices that the average person never has to contend with, because they're basically doing whatever they want to do. It's their life, it's their money, it's their future, it's everything is theirs. So life is full of treats and tricks. But when you are a person of faith, you don't have that luxury. And at the same time, you are struggling with making these choices and decisions, because oftentimes it will require something from you that is a sacrifice. And so it's not easy to walk by faith. You have to make some hard choices about, again, my family, we had never heard of a Saginaw. We had never heard of it. And here we are, 25 years nearly. Preaching was not on my radar. I was gonna, be a professional athlete,
Okay.
and I was on my way. I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to be the first, military officer in my family. So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to corporate America. I'm going to carry a briefcase every day and wear suits. Ministry was not on my radar, and God shifted all of it. And so I had to make a hard choice to turn away from my dreams to live out His calling.
Pastor, would you tell us a little bit about how you came to Saginaw?
Sure.
Just a little bit about how you came
Yeah.
to Saginaw. And you have a brother
Yes.
who is also a minister
Absolutely.
and the head of the church
Yes.
here in Saginaw.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I was pastoring the Mount Hopewell Baptist Church in Donaldson, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. And one of my mentors for years used to preach for Dr. J. Paris Wilson, former pastor of Mount Olive, as you know. And the church was vacant. And he said, Smitty, there is a wonderful church in Saginaw that needs to hear you, and you just need to see what God can do with a church of that magnitude. And the chair of the deacon committee called me, and I had an opportunity to come preach. And I was already going to be in Grand Rapids that weekend for the national convention. It worked out so I came over and I preached. And a year later, they called me to be pastor. But it was a lengthy experience, and I never will forget when I preached the very first time. After that, I started seeing these Mount Olive pickle signs all over the place. And I preached one evening in the district there in Nashville, and we were on our way home. And my wife, she just started crying. She said, that church in Saginaw is going to call you. But it was like a year later before they actually called me. And here I am.
Here you are.
25 years. Yeah. And my brother, I was here about 2 years prior to him coming, and he came to preach my appreciation one year. And Reverend Austin said, bring him over and let him preach the 8 a.m. service. He preached that service. And I think it was 2 years later, Reverend Austin retired, and my brother applied for the church, and God called him.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And he's still here.
Yes.
He's still here.
Yes.
Now, Pastor, I'm going to try to wait to the end to ask you about the leaving Mount Olive.
Yes.
We'll wait to the end and talk about that just a little bit. But I want to go back to one of there's so much in this book. Would you recommend this book for a young person, 20, 25?
Absolutely.
That age group, 20 to 30. Yeah. This book, because it's such an easy read.
Yes.
And the the more that one can read and understand something that's easy to read, have a little knowledge of God, works very well. Our
Yes.
young people we are trying to get back into the churches,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
could benefit from this
Yes.
book. So
Yes. Absolutely. I would recommend it for all ages to read, because the Bible is easy to read, but is not easy to apply.
right,
A lot of people read the Bible, but they don't understand it. They
Right,
know what it
right.
says, but they don't know what it means, and that's the application part.
Mhm.
And so that book is, as you've mentioned, is laced with stories. We all love stories.
right.
You have nuggets. There. You have takeaways. You have questions. All of that, so that it really speaks to wherever people are,
Mhm.
and then it brings them closer. Yeah.
In part 2 of the book, it talks about what people are saying.
Mhm.
Okay, and you interview people right here from this community.
Mhm.
Talk about there is a message and questions and responses from M.T. Thompson. I see Odell Thorns. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Dr. Thorns. Also, your daughter.
Mhm.
She had a response, and you asked her some questions.
Mhm.
How did they feel about talking about their going through the pandemic?
Well, again, I mean, who better to talk about their story
Mm-hmm.
than individuals? And
Mhm.
so basically, I just took a look at people from all walks of life, various ethnicities, different religions, because it affected us all.
Who's
We
the
were
youngest
all.
person in this book
I
from
think
the community?
I think my daughter,
Your
the
daughter.
baby,
Okay.
Mackenzie. I think she's the
Okay.
youngest.
All right.
But again, these are people who who were living out their faith, and they were affected in so many different ways, and so it affected us all, but not the same. So I provided 3 or 4 questions, and people were free to be as transparent as they wanted to, and they responded to those questions and just included them in the book. That this is what people are saying. These are not my words.
Right.
These are what these people are saying about COVID-19.
Are there any people in this book that you asked to participate who are just maybe street people, people who may have could have or did contribute to this? Like, there's the RCO over there, and I interact with those people over there, and they always talk about Mount Olive Baptist Church. So I wonder if, and I don't know all of them or their names and stuff. So is there anyone in here, because some people want to know that
Yes.
about God.
Yes.
They want to know about faith.
Yes.
And some of the men there are going through a terrible time.
Yes. Yes. There are no individuals who are residents at RCO in the book. However, there are people who are struggling with God and their faith that are in the book.
Okay. All right. Pastor, we need to take a short break. We're going to
Great.
come back and go through some more of what people are saying and talk about faithfulness through it all. Okay. So my guest is Dr. Marvin T. Smith from Mount Olive Institutional Missionary Baptist Church, and you are listening to Community Connections, Community Talk for Community People. I'll be right back. You are back with Community Connections, Community Talk for Community People. My guest this afternoon is Dr. Marvin T. Smith, the Reverend Dr. Marvin T. Smith, senior pastor of Mount Olive Institutional Missionary Baptist Church. He is my guest this afternoon. He has a new book that we're talking about, and it is entitled The Pandemic: How My Faith Was Challenged But Not Changed. Pastor, in writing this book, which chapter? I'm going to read some of these titles or of the chapters. What is faith? Do you have an anchor? Your walk, your talk, or walk your talk. Get to work now. Okay, it only a test. What do you see? Hard choices, faithfulness through it all, and what people are saying. Which one of these chapters has the most meat in it that people can get something from? We want people to read this book. I was asking you about, can this book be placed at any of the institutions where people who really need to know about faith and understand faith and how it moves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If I had to select a chapter, it would probably be the last, chapter 9, Faithfulness Through It All. Because that chapter summarizes the different types of trials people experienced. And there were some people who received the reward in the here and now. There were those who did not receive the reward in the here and now, and yet they maintained their faithfulness. No matter what came at them, they maintained their faithfulness to God. And I would, again, recommend that particular chapter because everything is covered. What you're going through may not be what I'm going through, but it is as challenging for you as what I'm going through is as challenging for me. And so I can't tell you what to do to overcome your challenges, but I can tell you how to overcome your challenges. And that is a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ.
If you do not have a relationship with him.
It's relationship.
Okay. All right. So, Pastor, what people are saying, what were the results of all of your talks with people in terms of what they were going through with COVID and the pandemic? Were there any bounce backs? Did they get through it okay?
Yes. But there were some who had just given up on church, faith, God, service, ministry, hope. Many of them had hit rock bottom. And the good thing about that second section is that these are real people. I mean, these are, and we all love stories.
Yes.
And we're all rooting for the underdog.
Yes.
And many of these people, they were at some point during COVID underdogs. Didn't think they would survive. Didn't think they would win. Didn't think they would even return to their church before God would call them home. Didn't think they would see me before they would return. Didn't think they would, be able to return to ministry and service and start shopping again and flying and visiting relatives, all those things that we took for granted. And so for them, it was like, it was over, it's done. But to hear them articulate their stories in their own language, these are their actual submissions. It's not edited. It's not changed in any way. This is their story as it relates to what they thought about God, what they learned about God and themselves. How has COVID prepared them for a post-COVID faith? So that second part, again, these were real people telling their stories.
With post-COVID, okay, do you see people or any of these people making a big comeback with their stories, the ones that responded? are they okay with how it turned out? Is their faith still there?
Yes. I, those that I have maintained some level of communication with, yes.
Excuse me.
There are some who still have not returned to life as it was, as it relates to their faith walk.
There are some people, Pastor, who have no faith. Young people, older
Mhm,
people,
mhm,
they have no faith.
mhm,
They're just
mhm,
out there trying to survive.
mhm.
And if they understood just a little bit about the Bible, what would you
Yes.
tell them?
Yes.
It's not to just sell the book, but
Yes.
about
Yeah.
about God and
Yeah.
having faith and
Yeah.
understanding how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the facts and factors that no doubt is the reason I am still here today
Hmm.
is because God continues to prove Himself over and over again that He did not create me.
Hmm.
He did not give me life and then just left it up to me how to make it through
Hmm.
life. But He has partnered with me, and everything that I cannot handle, He has handled. Um, and He has taught me that He is with me, He is for me, and He is not against me. And I had to learn that life comes at you, but the test is going to be whether you turn to God or whether you turn away from God. And in every tough situation, you want to turn to God. This is a time to turn to God. And a lot of people turned on God, they turned against God because they couldn't understand, if God is so good,
Hmm.
why is all of this happening?
Why is it happening
And
to
why
them?
is it happening to me? It's always interesting that when we say, why is this happening to me? We only relate to bad stuff. But when good things are happening, we never ask the question, why is
Mhm.
all the good things
Mhm.
happening to me?
Mhm.
So that's what faith does. It causes you to stay the course during the good and the bad, because you are following God. You're not leading the way. And as long as you know He is leading the way, as long as you know He knows the way, as long as you know He is the way, you can follow Him. We get in trouble when we try to take over, when we try to come alongside of Him and we're not able to bear what we see. But if we stay behind Him, He is facing it, He goes before us, and He is ahead of us. So I would encourage people who have lost their faith, people who have no faith, um, biblical faith, that is,
Right. Right.
to as we have tried so many other things, give it a chance. Give it a chance, and you will discover that God was always there. He was there all the time.
All the time. All the time. Through everything.
Absolutely.
Pastor, I know that you said you were in the service. I don't know if you
Mhm.
had, if you were, what conflict that you were in, but all through trials and tribulations and anything that
Mhm.
was happening with people who were in the service going overseas, and God is with you then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to have faith to hold
Yes.
on
Yeah.
to make it to
Yeah.
come back,
Yeah.
So it's not, not just this pandemic,
Right.
but this
It's
is the
life.
times. It's life
It's life.
itself.
It's life. Yeah. It's life.
So this again is a very good read for anyone. This pandemic could mean anything.
Yeah.
Whether it's World War I or II, those who were able to get through that, they had faith
Mhm.
in something.
Yes.
Faith in God.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but we're talking about the pandemic, how
Mhm.
my faith was challenged but not changed
Mhm.
by Dr. Marvin T. Smith. And he is my guest. Dr. Smith, your other books,
Mhm.
are they about faith?
I think that there's an element. Yeah.
Mhm.
The first book was on the parables of Jesus Christ, where the whole idea was to tell stories so that they would impact people the way Jesus' stories impacted people. So
Yes.
parables,
Yes.
people love stories. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's a narrative, and so That one is on those parables and how we can clothe them in 21st century language instead of using first century language, such that we don't domesticate them, we don't take away their punch and their power, but we just tell them in new, interesting, and creative ways. They're already that, but for some people, they just, if it says Bible, they automatically shy away
Right.
from it.
That's right.
But we can tell those stories as though they are hot off the press. God, the Bible. That's why I love the Bible. It's not only what God has said; it is what God is saying. He is still speaking to us today.
Still
Yeah.
speaking.
And
to
the other
us.
one is there's a compilation of messages from a group of preachers from across the world who we went to Oxford University in England and we studied. And the end product was for us to submit a sermon based upon the instructions we had received there. And so those are the two other publications I've had.
For this book, will you be having a autograph signing or revealing?
Yes.
When is that going to take
the
place?
book signing is July the 12th. That's
July
a Wednesday.
The 12th.
At Anderson and Richmond Center, right across from Ojibwe Island. From 6 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. It's going to be a live music jazz set, and so people can order their books and then they can bring them and I can sign them. Or we will have hard copies there available for people to purchase for $15 on July the 12th, 6 p.m. at Ojibwe Island.
Okay.
Anderson and Richmond, right across the street from the Ojibwe Island.
Ojibwe Island.
Yes.
July the 12th, 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Anderson and Richmond Center.
All right. With live music. We'll have some gospel music too, right?
We're probably going to have some little jazz.
Little jazz.
More jazz it up a little bit, Joyce.
Okay, Pastor. Matthew, you giving us that 5 minutes?
Oh, well, it's 5:45.
5:45. Okay. Pastor, tell us anything that I may have missed in this book that you would like our listening audience to know.
I have to thank my support system, my family, my wife, my children, a couple of friends. You know, we all have those ride or die people in our lives, those who are with us until the coffin drops. So just my family, my church family. Mount Olive has been a tremendous people to serve and to do ministry with. It is the church has been there with me every step of the way, has given me the freedom to write and to research. And so I'm just grateful to God for the Mount Olive Church family and my family and friends.
So in October is when you're going to be leaving. Okay. Tell us. We don't want you to leave. But tell us what's going to be happening in October.
The fourth weekend in October, the congregation has put together a retirement and anniversary celebration to be at the Horizon Conference Center.
Okay.
So I know there's a banquet and I know there's some other things going on that weekend. We have church that Sunday morning. And the following weekend will be my last weekend as senior pastor, and I'll preach my final sermon the fifth Sunday in October at the 9:30 hour.
So this is actually a retirement, or are you going to still write books and tour?
I am going to do more of the same.
More of the same.
I will always preach. I will always teach. I want to do some consulting. I want to do some coaching. Everything that has been poured into me, I want to spend the rest of my life emptying myself. I've had the privilege to study with some people, go some places, educated, trained, and some people have not had those experiences. So I'm indebted to God for that. And anything that you owe God is payable to people. And so I just want to spend the rest of my life helping people, inspiring people to live the life that God has called them to. So I'm open for whatever God says, wherever he leads. And I'll be doing more writing, more teaching, more preaching until I'm done.
Have you started on the next book?
Yes, I have.
It's on its way.
I have.
I
Yes,
like
I
it.
have.
I like it.
Hopefully, it'll be available during the retirement.
Very good. Very good. Pastor, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you. there's a lot of good things in this book. I'm going to get one for someone and try to send it to them.
All right, great.
Okay,
Great.
try to send it to them. I think that, well, I'll get you to help me with
Absolutely.
that, because
Yes.
they can only receive things a certain way.
Okay.
But this
Gotcha.
is a good
Understand.
read
Yeah.
for faith and understanding, because it could be anything.
Yes.
Someone who is incarcerated,
Yes.
okay, can
Yes.
use this book.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's there's just so many things wrong with the world and with the system, but if you have faith and understand it, know how to apply it.
Yes.
Um,
It's a tremendous joy to know that somebody else is in charge,
Mhm.
and you don't have to be. And God is in charge.
I tell you,
And I mean, he has history of dealing with the world. I mean, he
yes,
knows what he's doing, and so I don't have to be in charge. I just get to know the one who is in charge and trust his leadership and spend the rest of my days following wherever he leads.
worrying about it isn't going to do anything.
It's not going to change it.
Not at all. I have just one community announcement that I want to make. There is going to be a pancake breakfast on Friday, June the 23rd from 9 to 11 a.m. at the Buena Vista Community Center Commission on Aging, and that's at 1940 South Outer Drive. It is hosted by our 94th State Representative, Amos O'Neill, and this is a free pancake breakfast. Okay, so I wanted to let everyone know you can go out, not only enjoy the meal, but ask questions about what he is doing for the community and tell him what needs to be done from your perspective, what needs to be done here in the community. So make sure that you take advantage of that. Pastor, I want to say thank you again for being here. What people are saying, I look forward to reading the rest of those.
Yes.
And seeing what they have to say, because the pandemic was
Yeah.
a terrible thing.
Yeah, and I thought I was feeling some kind of way during it, but to read those people's experiences,
Yes.
it's like, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, everyone had their own unique experience.
Okay, very good. Well, listen, I want to say thanks to my guest this afternoon, Reverend Dr. Marvin T. Smith from Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, Institutional Missionary Baptist Church, for being my guest this afternoon and giving a just overview of this book. Great book. Thank you so much. And thank you for my autographed copy.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And I want to say to Lady Omi Smith that we are praying for you and look forward to seeing you. I hope that you will continue to do well. So thank you very much. And I invite all of the listeners to tune in next Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. for another sharing of community talk and information featuring the news and interests of the African American community, Community Connections, community talk for community people next Sunday right here on this station. I want to thank those who helped make this program possible, the connectors, and the Community Connections theme song was written by local author, poet, and social activist Asigit Mersha and performed by Gone. Today's Community Connections radio magazine was brought to you by the Saginaw NAACP and its Youth Council. We don't want to forget our youth. And remember, membership is power. You can get a membership to the NAACP for adults and for youth. And I personally invite you to get connected, be informed, and stay involved. Okay. Now, if you have an idea for a show on a topic on the show, please, you can give me a call or give me an email at jwharvin@gmail.com. Okay. And so I will talk to you next week right here on Community Connections, community talk for community people. Me out.